Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you will enjoy listening to. If you're interested in creating more balance in your life, understanding your 5-element energetic nature, finding the path of greatest ease,
or releasing the baggage of this lifetime and discovering ancient alchemy that can help you fly in your life, join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical transformational journey.
Hello and welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is episode 7 and my name is Jay. I'm with my co-host Lita Herman.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're going to talk about asking yourself what you truly want in your life. In the last episode, we talked about entering the mystery gate, the first step of the first stage of alchemy. This is in respect to the 9 stages of alchemy, so we got a long way to go. If you're listening for the first time, you might want to go back to episode 1 where we start this whole journey. We introduce you to some concepts, some theories, some things that we like to do when we explain alchemy to people, as well as the 5 elements and different transformational thoughts that we have. So in this episode, we're going to continue the discussion that we had, and we're moving on to step 2.
Step 2 of the first stage of alchemy. So what we're doing is we're taking our time. We're breaking things down very slowly. And then the last particular episode, we talked about entering the mystery gate. And if you remember, it was all about fear. Because sometimes when you take the red pill, like we said from the Matrix movie, when you are daring enough to say, I'm going to remove the veil and look behind the veil, it's like entering a dark tunnel. And fears may come up. And we talked about homework you can do about that. So you can go back to episode 6 if you feel like that's where you're at.
Or you can go all the way back to 1, like I just said, and start the journey from the beginning. But you really can listen to these exclusively on their own, but they are meant to go in somewhat of an order, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And so if the fear did come up when you had the idea of entering the mystery gate.
That sounds like a Scooby-Doo episode. Entering the mystery gate, look behind the veil. Makes me laugh a little bit. Sorry. We're already starting off with going funny here. So if you start to enter the mystery gate, go ahead, Lita.
And you have some fear, then give it some time before
and you don't have Scooby-Doo with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you need Scooby-Doo, right?
You need Scooby-Doo.
So maybe that's the answer.
That could be the answer.
That could be your mantra, yes. Something with Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Okay. So moving past the Scooby-Doo reference, so you give it some time before moving on.
Yes.
Okay.
Now let's say you don't have fear, and that's completely possible. A lot of people don't. Now you're ready to move on. And so you've walked through this dark tunnel and you're getting to the light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's a very popular phrase, a light at the end of the tunnel. So I know you always, when we talk about this, you say, if you see the light, just keep walking. So, okay.
Yeah. And so as you walk towards the light, whenever you've been in the dark and you're moving towards the light, your eyes, you get kind of a little overwhelmed. It's very bright in comparison with the darkness. And so this is really an important piece of what we're going to talk about today, because as you work through all the fear and you move towards the light, you may have this exhilaration, all this light, the angels are singing. I mean, it feels like you're coming out of darkness. Yeah, an epiphany.
Okay.
Woo.
I may have arrived. Is that the kind of feeling?
Yeah, you've arrived at the end of the tunnel. But here's the thing. You may feel overwhelmed. The light's too bright, the noise is too loud, you've entered a big city. So they actually say this in the treatment. It's like you've entered a big city, you've come from a smaller place, a darker place, you've entered the light, lots of lights flashing, neon, all of that.
Is it like an overwhelm?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I have an example of someone who went through this, and this is exactly what happened to her.
Well, this would be a good place to give that example.
Yeah, it would. So she basically said it was as if the skies parted, the clouds opened up, and this she light came down from the sky. And it was literally, she didn't say she heard angels, but I imagined the angels singing. And yes. And she said it was like all her life, all of the things she was uncertain about, everything got clarity. And this clarity was so profound and so specific. She knew exactly what she needed to do with her home life, with her work. Everything was so clear, but everything needed to change. Every aspect of her life. So she came back and she was all excited. She had been on a trip and she said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then reality set in.
Reality for her.
Reality for her. And it was the overwhelm of sort of all of this light that got shed onto her life. And she saw what she needed to see clearly. And instead of being able to actually move forward and do that, it took her a long time to get unoverwhelmed and begin to make the changes.
So how long did it take her? And has she reached most of those goals now?
She has now, but I am not kidding. It took her 5 years because the overwhelm was so big. Now, this is why
that's not everyone
today.
Right? It's just that's an example
this isn't
of the extreme. Okay.
And she kind of shut down. That was just her mode. That's okay. That's what happened with her. But if we do what we're going to talk about today, then that won't happen. And that is that we're going to ask the question, what do you really want? What do I really want? And this is an important part.
What do I really want?
Yeah, right. What do you? Yeah,
so you have to ask yourself what you truly want.
The way they do this is if you've come to the big city with all the flashing lights, you have to leave the city. You have to walk away and go on retreat.
You have to find that quiet place to reflect.
Yeah. And in the old days, they would go up into the mountains. This is why they had the caves. And in order to really ask yourself some deep questions, you need time to kind of, separate from the world a little bit and learn how to meditate, learn how to ask questions.
So this is, again, we go back to that self-cultivation we keep talking about in every episode of starting a meditation practice, starting some kind of qigong, kind of internal peace, kind of quiet place, whether, everyone will have a different way to do it, but that retreat is in your meditation, correct? Yes.
Correct. Okay. And so
I was kind of thinking we were going to go away on retreat, which we do have some plan in the future. But
well, actually, it's not that you can't go away. That would be wonderful. It's wonderful if you could go away by yourself, without the kids, without your spouse, and go and ask these questions of yourself alone.
But so you can call 1-800-EMPTY-CAVE and see if they have an availability. Boy, Excuse me, can I please get a cave for like 2 weeks?
I really think they should have such a thing. That would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
Thinking that for a long time.
I know when we were in China, we tried to get into the cave to sleep, and they were like, well, you can do that, but you'll be all by yourself on the mountain. And we're like, no. We like a little bit of supervision. And maybe the next time we go to China.
But there are places, like we saw a movie about some of the Tibetan monks where they get fed like a roll a day,
And they check on them every few days, and a cup of water. And yes, and they just meditate. And they're on their retreat. So maybe you don't have to get the 1-800-CAVE to get a reservation. But if you can go away, that'd be great. But otherwise, do you maybe steal these times in your life, like these moments when you're meditating, to start your retreat?
And that's why we did a time management episode before we got to this, because if you can manage your time a little better, then you'll have time maybe every morning or at least a couple times a week to do the meditation that you need to do in this particular step of alchemy.
Is there a specific meditation that we're going to talk about?
Yes, we're going to talk about it. And we're also going to talk about why we're asking this question. So the question is, what do I really want?
What do you truly want?
Yeah.
Yes. So, after you self-cultivate and you're starting to meditate and you realize that you're very excited with these thoughts, and then, as you said, you're in the distractions of this new big city, and you have to go to the country to find a quiet place to meditate, to think, to process, to reflect. Because I think as humans, we ask questions all the time of ourselves. That's how we move forward in life. And then so we need to give ourselves permission to reflect, to take that time.
Because we ask the question and we don't wait for the answer.
Yeah, we want it immediately. So
this is actually this little step is about going on retreat.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But not the caves.
You don't have to go to the caves. You don't even have to go, to Mexico or wherever you go for a retreat. You could just do it in set up a little altar for yourself and sit quietly, whatever you need to do.
So, and when you start to ask this question of what do I really want? It's not based on money. I know I sound like a broken record. It's not based on fears, taking risks. There's no mistakes. There's no right. There's no wrong. Everyone's going to have a different way to approach this. It's like a simple question. However, it's the most profound question of our lives. What do I really want? And you can keep asking yourself over and over that question.
And this is what a lot of Jay's strategic coaching is about, because most people, I would say the majority of people, are not asking this question without any limitations on themselves.
That's absolutely correct, because they think that even if they might know what they want, they put all of these barricades and roadblocks and just things in the way that they make it almost certain that they're not going to get what they really want. It's almost the opposite. And that's if people actually know what they want. So it can just definitely be an unraveling of how to get over these roadblocks or get around them. Or, if we have to, we'll blow them up. We just don't know what it's going to be that holds people back when I'm working with them. Yeah.
So we have to first go over the what do I really want process.
Yes.
So let's start with that. This process really involves asking yourself this question, open-ended, completely open-ended.
And that is also something that people, they understand it, but they're like, oh, I don't understand it. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, in a perfect world, you can use that example, whether there's no money, there's no limitations. You can really do anything that you want.
There's no family telling you what to do or your kids.
No parents judging, no judgment. No judgment. Yeah.
And so what if the answer is totally contrary to everything you think you are right now?
Yeah. Or everything you've already done in your life.
Yeah.
What if you are an accountant and you've been an accountant for 25 years, you're married with children, and you wanted to be, I don't know, a trapeze artist in the circus? Then what?
Or living in a treehouse and eating berries.
There you go. The treehouse and the berries. I knew that was coming up. We have to go to the forest and find the berries. Or we'll talk about that later. But so what happens, Lita, if you say, okay, I had the big epiphany, I had the clouds and the angels singing, and they told me to run off and join the circus. What do I do?
You have to go think about it. You might have this flash and it's wonderful, but if you don't go on retreat, you're going to end up like that woman we were talking about where it took her so long. The problem was she came back and she got back into her life. Like the big city was happening all around her.
Maybe she liked the big city.
Yeah, but she didn't give herself the time to really listen to herself. And really, It's a bigger thing to make a big change in your life.
All right. So what if I want to be like, say, president of the United States, or maybe an Olympic gold medalist, or my favorite, what if I truly want to win American Idol? Okay. So if anyone heard me sing,
never going to win.
That's not going to happen. So is that delusional? Is that crazy? What if I don't think I have what it takes to win American Idol? But that is my win American Idol. I don't know. What would you tell someone if they said, I've heard some things, nothing too crazy in the past with my work, but I've heard some things that I've never been really shocked.
Well, we're going to talk about in a minute about how to actually ask this question. How do you sit on your own, and where is this information coming from? So one of the problems with some of these questions and the answers that you get is it's kind of like your monkey mind is answering the question.
Yes, monkey mind is definitely a topic. We could actually do a whole show on monkey mind.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. My thing is the monkey mind. Does the monkey mind always lead to disappointment, or just, like confusion, or they doubt themselves, or what is the monkey mind, and how do you kind of combat that?
Well, what we're going to talk about is there's a difference between your higher self and kind of your ego, lower mind, monkey mind.
Okay.
And the monkey mind has a lot of good ideas. They seem to be good ideas, but they're not really what your higher self wants.
So is my monkey mind really want to be the American Idol?
Yeah, probably. For you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to be disappointed, I promise. And, but that might be like, I might think, that's really like kind of, I don't want to say the word stupid because there's no stupid questions or no stupid answers. But if I had gotten, I want to do the American Idol thing, I'd be like, that is like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my own life. But I didn't get the American Idol. I'm just using that in jest right now to keep it light and airy. But some people might say, I just got this crazy idea that I want to run off to the circus, or what do I do? So how do you say that there's no right or no wrong and there's no stupid?
Well, there definitely is no stupid. It's just how you get the answer.
Okay. That's actually good. Simple. I like that. All right, hold on. Before we get too far ahead, I know where this conversation is going. So let's go back to, what if I don't like the answer?
Yeah. What if you're afraid of the answer?
Again, to the fear. Yeah.
Yeah. What if your whole life, everyone's been telling you to be and do something you don't want to be and do, and you've been doing it?
Yeah. That's a biggie. That's going to stop a lot of people and make them go, that's me.
Maybe your parents have been complaining about how you're living your life and why you do what you do, and they want you to be different. Or maybe your spouse wants you to be different. Maybe your boss is constantly telling you to be different.
I always think that people want you or the person who's listening to be more like them.
Yeah,
and when they're
of
not,
course.
there's definitely conflict.
And we talked about that in the 5 Elements episode, episode 2, if you want to go back and listen to it, that it's so important that you get clear in your own authenticity so you know what you really want to be. And this is about asking that question completely open-ended, completely authentically.
And sometimes people have never really asked themselves what do they truly want because they've just been following along.
Most people haven't.
Yeah. So, okay.
I mean, what if you are that accountant and you really are truly an artist at heart?
Yeah.
And you've never done art in your whole life.
Or your parents just kind of like dissuaded you from doing art, saying that you're never going to have a career with that, or you're never going to make any money doing that. And your father's always been an accountant and his father was an accountant, and damn it, you're going to be an accountant.
Absolutely. Or, the classic case is you're gay and everybody wants you to be straight, or nowadays maybe you want to change genders. I mean, these are all things that have really been a big issue for people for eons.
Yeah.
And it's about being true to yourself. If you ask this question completely authentically and open-endedly, you may get an answer that either surprises you because you never asked before, or that you've always known and you've never let yourself be that.
Yeah. And, the list could go on and on about the questions you might want to ask yourself, like, where do you want to live? Well, I know a lot of people who live in the cold weather and they are miserable every winter. Like, I'm not living here again. I hate the cold weather. But yet they stay in the cold weather. They don't move to the warm climate. So I think that they don't really ask themselves truly what they want. So the list could go on and on. So be patient with yourself.
And the other thing to think about before we move on is about what is the difference between answering this question about being versus doing? Because we live in a career-driven society.
Okay, that's true.
This what do I really want question, the first thing that's going to come up in your mind often is what you do for a living or what you do, period.
I always say, what do you do for money? And what do you do for passion? Like, what is your passion project kind of thing? Sometimes they match up with people and sometimes they don't. It all depends where they are in their journey.
And if your identity is wrapped up in what you do for a living, you might need to ask this question about what do I really want as who do I really want to be? Which is the same question. It's just focused on beingness instead of doingness.
And, when we meet people, what is one of the first things we ask them? Hey, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, it's
like an identity thing. Yeah, it's an identity thing for sure. It's also a way to start a conversation, but it's definitely embedded in our society for identity. People are connected with what they do for a living.
Now, I was doing a treatment with a client once who I'll call Sally, who is lying there, and we're doing this point, and I asked her the question, what do you really want? And she just looked so visibly upset, and I couldn't figure out why. And she finally explained it to me that she had her whole life been fighting this career-driven society, and she specifically got really sick while she was working and quit and had since not worked. She supported her spouse and helped out at home, but she basically recovered her health by not working. And so everyone else around her was upset about this, wanted her to go back to work. So when I asked that question, what does she really want? She immediately jumped to, oh no, another person asking me what I want to do with my career. When I told her that this question could be a beingness question and that she could actually wish for in her life, the Wu Wei that we talk about, inspired action, and that everything in her life could be Wu Wei, and she could be the person who lives by that principle. She was so excited.
Was she kind of relieved?
She was immensely relieved.
Yeah, that's the sense I got too.
It was this huge, weight had been lifted off of her, and someone had given her permission to just be the person she wanted to be.
Why don't we teach Wu Wei in school?
Yeah, really.
Why don't we teach little kids how to, they live it, and then someday it changes, and then they don't live it.
Actually, my son went to a school where they really kind of teach that. It's a Waldorf school. And if anyone's interested in raising children that way, Waldorf education is probably the closest thing to Wu Wei that I can
it's just,
imagine.
It seems so simple and easy. We put such boundaries and limitations. I don't want to get off on that. But when you had that person and they were relieved, then what? That's what she wanted? That was her epiphany? Like, I just want to be?
Yeah, just having an answer to the question, what do I really want? She could never answer that before because she knew what she didn't want. She didn't want to have the typical career-driven life.
So, all right. So here we go to my next question. How do you ask yourself?
Yes. Well, this is the question. We actually want you to ask yourself in a very specific way. First of all, are you willing to ask this question? Because if you're not 100% willing to be authentic with yourself to answer this question, then we have to work on that.
How about we go back to
go back to the last episode and we'll start all over.
And again, it's about self-cultivation. It's about meditating. It's about finding that stillness in you. And you need to cultivate that. You need to be more and more comfortable. And as you become more and more comfortable, then you can ask yourself more and more bigger questions.
You might be really terrified of the answer.
I think a lot of people might be terrified of both the question and the answer. Okay, so if they're willing to be 100% authentic.
Yes, then you're ready. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a quiet place to sit. Meditate. It's basically like meditation, and you're going to receive something. So you can think of it as if something that bubbles up from within you, or something that it descends from heaven to you, but it's something that arrives in your mind. You don't manufacture it.
Okay.
Like if I sit down, what do I really want? Well, I think I want this. I think I want that. My mind's just going blah, 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 blah. Quiet that monkey mind. And now be quiet for a bit of time and receive that answer. So for your homework for this, we're going to have you do this meditation. Yes. Okay. So you're going to think of yourself as a giant antenna, a receiver, like the old fashioned antennas.
Receiver with a big antenna on the top?
The big ones.
Yep.
You turn on that receiver, you extend your antenna out and you wait for that signal to come in. So you ask yourself, what do I really want? And you tune yourself into the answer. Which
is you're tuning yourself into the quietness, the stillness?
Yes.
Okay, so again, that might take time. Be patient.
Yes.
You're not going to get, you might get the answer the first second of the first try, but it might take a while.
Actually, it could take you weeks. I mean, some people, it takes them quite a long time. Other people know the answer before they've even asked the question.
Which is definitely, I think that's, again, you have to be patient with yourself.
And a lot of people tell me, I mean, it's very common. They already know the answer.
All right, so how long do they do the meditation for?
Well, I think you should sit for at least 5 to 10 minutes every day if you can, or a couple times a week.
Working just on this?
Yeah, okay. Until you start getting the answer. And the answer feels so different than that monkey mind. I mean, I don't know about you, Jay, but I feel like when I get an answer from that higher level, I'm like, oh, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. And it might be like, oh, I knew that was the answer. I just wasn't ready to deal with it because that means I might have to change my job, or I might have to, just change everything, start working out every day, or start losing weight, or eating differently, or quit smoking, or quit drinking. And those are the answers. Those are all crutches that people have that kind of keep them from their true self, kind of like blocks.
And it's like, when your mind's trying to figure something out, it's like problem solving or a math challenge, but this is more relaxed than that. It flows to you softly. It's like something just speaks to you from the space that is not your mind.
Okay, so that's a little deep. Let's say that again. It feels like something that speaks to you from the space that is not your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, you talk a little about that.
This is a spiritual meditation. It is literally, in Chinese medicine, we say you have a body, you have a mind, and you have a spirit. And what we're trying to do is answer this question not from the mind level, but from the spirit level. And when you're dealing with the spirit level, it's less about the words and more about concepts. It's less about the details and more about the big picture. So when you get this sort of block of information downloaded to you, it's going to feel different. It'll feel less like this fear-based, constant mind, monkey mind thing we talk about, which is very fear-based. Oh, I need to get this. I need my needs met. I need this happening. I need that happening. It's a lot of needs.
So is it softer? Is it more like feel in tune to your true identity?
Yes. Remember, when you get the answer, quote unquote, it will feel undeniable to you. When you get the monkey mind going, you often can argue with it. Well, that's not a good idea, or this isn't a good idea.
Yep.
And you negotiate. But when you, like that woman that I told you about who had all of the clarity of her life download to her, she never doubted it. Even in the difficulties she had to enact what it was. I mean, she went through divorce and change of career. I mean, there's so much that changed in those 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming to do that much change in her life, but she never doubted the moment that she got that download.
Yeah. I mean, I think that from a motivational transformation mindset, that when I work on myself and with other people, when I sometimes say it's like, the pit bull who gets the steak in their mouth. They're not letting go. They're just going to hold on to that thought. They're just not going to stop. They're just going to until they get what they want. So you can make that a little more spiritual and say, you're just going to stop. You're not going to stop on that journey until you know that it might take you a lifetime to get there, but you're going to get there.
And in the next episode, we're going to talk about the next step. But I want to explain it in this episode as well. Just because you get some great ideas from these meditations, the next step is you're going to sit with that for a while. You don't jump to action. Yeah. So the good news is, even if you get something that you're really excited about, you're going to give it some time.
Should we do a little more journaling?
Yeah,
that would probably be a good idea.
Yes.
Especially if you're really, really new to the meditation and asking yourself these questions, maybe write down what you get as a response and see if it's consistent. See if you get the same answer. See if it changes from day to day, or if you get no answer. That's always, you can write that down as well. And you can also write down if you are getting the monkey mind. So what do they do if they get the monkey mind, if they can't meditate?
Well, you could still, if you're not sure, and probably in the beginning you won't be, you could still write down the things that you're getting, even if they seem like monkey mind things.
I think that's a good idea, because
why not write it down?
Write it down, and then you can look back on it. So I think that's great. So if you've been thinking about what you should be doing, take your time to make sure that your mind is not trying to negotiate, not interfering. Just let it come naturally, let it flow, and see what happens. Everyone is different. There's no right or wrong. You're going to take your time. You're going to empty your mind, and things will come.
Yes. And, writing it down and really allowing it to gel for a while you may actually have to change your whole identity.
Sure.
To do this.
Sure.
And the next stage is going to be, well, who are you with respect to maybe what you really want? Your whole way you think of yourself may have to change.
Yeah. So that's where we are right now. So it's asking yourself what you truly want.
Yes.
All right. Good luck. Have fun.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast. You can follow our Inspired Actions on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews and really appreciate your input. Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to hug the dog.